The 12 Chairs by Ilf and Petrov. Chapter 12. A Passionate Woman is a Poet's Dream. During the night the cold was completely consumed. It became so warm that the feet of early passers-by began to ache. The sparrows chirped various nonsense. Even the hen that emerged from the kitchen into the hotel yard felt a surge of strength and tried to take off. The sky was covered with small dumpling-like clouds, and the dustbin reeked of violets and soup passan. The wind lazed under the eaves. Tomcats lounged on the rooftops and, half closing their eyes, condescendingly watched the yard, across which the room cleaner Alexander was hurrying with a bundle of dirty washing. Things began stirring in the corridors of the Sorbonne. Delegates were arriving from other regions for the opening of the tramway. A whole crowd of them got down from a wagon bearing the name of the Sorbonne Hotel. The sun was warming to its fullest extent. Up flew the corrugated iron shutters of the shops, and workers in Soviet government offices on their way to work in padded coats breathed heavily and unbuttoned themselves, feeling the heaviness of spring. On Cooperative Street, an overloaded truck belonging to the Grain Mill and Lift Construction Administration broke a spring, and Viktor Polasov arrived at the scene to give advice. From one of the rooms furnished with down-to-earth luxury, 2 beds and a night table, came a horse-like snorting and neighing. Ippolit Matveyevitch was happily washing himself and blowing his nose. The smooth operator lay in bed inspecting the damage to his boots. "By the way," he said, "kindly settle your debt." Ippolit Matveyevitch surfaced from under his towel and looked at his partner with bulging pince-nez eyes.
"Why are you staring at me like a soldier at a louse? What are you surprised about, the debt? Yes, you owe me some money. I forgot to tell you yesterday that I had to pay with your authority 70 rubles for the orders. Herewith the receipt. Sling over 35 rubles. Concessionaires, I hope, share the expenses on an equal footing."
Ippolit Matveyevitch put on his pince-nez, read the receipt, and, sighing, passed over the money. But even that could not dampen his spirits. The riches were in their hands. The 30-ruble speck of dust vanished in the glitter of a diamond mountain. Smiling radiantly, Ippolit Matveyevitch went out into the corridor and began strolling up and down. His plans for a new life built on a foundation of precious stones brought him great comfort. "And the Holy Father," he gloated, "has been taken for a ride. He'll see as much of the chairs as his beard." Reaching the end of the corridor, Vorobianinov turned round. The cracked white door of room number 13 opened wide, and out towards him came Father Theodore in a blue tunic encircled by a shabby black cord with a fluffy tassel. His kindly face was beaming with happiness. He had also come into the corridor to stretch his legs. The rivals approached one another several times, looking at each other triumphantly as they passed. At the 2 ends of the corridor they both turned simultaneously and approached again. Ippolit Matveyevitch's heart was bursting with joy. Father Theodore was experiencing a similar feeling. Each was sorry for his defeated enemy. By the time they reached the 5th lap, Ippolit Matveyevitch could restrain himself no longer. "Good morning, Father," he said with inexpressible sweetness. Father Theodore mustered all the sarcasm with which God had endowed him and replied with, "Good morning, Ippolit Matveyevitch." The enemies parted. When their paths next crossed, Vorobianinov said casually, "I hope I didn't hurt you at our last meeting."
"Not at all. It was very pleasant to see you,"
replied the other jubilantly. They moved apart again. Father Theodore's physiognomy began to disgust Ippolit Matveyevitch. "I don't suppose you're saying Mass anymore," he remarked at the next encounter.
"There's nowhere to say it. The parishioners have all run off in search of treasure."
"Their own treasure, mark you, their own."
"I don't know whose it is, but only that they're looking for it."
Ippolit Matveyevitch wanted to say something nasty and even opened his mouth to do so, but was unable to think of anything and angrily returned to his room. At that moment the son of a Turkish citizen, Ostap Bender, emerged from the room in a light blue waistcoat, and treading on his own laces went towards Vostrikov. The roses on Father Theodore's cheeks withered and turned to ash.
"Do you buy rags and bones?" he asked menacingly. "Chairs, entrails, tins of boot polish?" "What do you want?" whispered Father Theodore. "I want to sell you an old pair of trousers." The priest stiffened and moved away. "Why are you silent like an archbishop at a party?" Father Theodore slowly walked towards his room. "We buy old stuff and steal new stuff," called Ostap after him.
Vostrikov lowered his head and stopped by the door. Ostap continued taunting him.
What about my pants, my dear cleric? Will you take them? There's also the sleeves of a waistcoat, the middle of a donut, and the ears of a dead donkey. The whole lot is going wholesale. It's cheaper. And they are not hidden in chairs, so you won't need to look for them.
The door shut behind the cleric. Ostap sauntered back satisfied, his laces flopping against the carpet. As soon as his massive figure was sufficiently far away, Father Theodore quickly poked his head round the door and, with long pent-up indignation, squeaked, "Silly old fool!" "What's that?" cried Ostap, promptly turning back, but the door was already shut, and the only sound was the click of the lock. Ostap bent down to the keyhole, cupped his hand to his mouth, and said clearly,
"How much is opium for the people?"
There was silence behind the door.
"Dad, you're a nasty old man," said Ostap loudly.
That very moment the point of Father Theodore's pencil shot out of the keyhole and wiggled in the air in an attempt to sting his enemy. The concessionaire jumped back in time and grasped hold of it. Separated by the door, the adversaries began a tug of war. Youth was victorious, and the pencil, clinging like a splinter, slowly crept out of the keyhole. Ostap returned with the trophy to his room, where the partners were still more elated.
"And the enemy's in flight, flight, flight," he crooned.
He carved a rude word on the edge of the pencil with a pocket knife, ran into the corridor, pushed the pencil through the priest's keyhole, and hurried back. The friends got out the green counterfoils and began a careful examination of them. "This one's for the shepherd girl tapestry," said Ippolit Matveyevich dreamily. "I bought it from a St. Petersburg antique dealer."
"To hell with the shepherd girl," said Ostap,
tearing the order to ribbons. "A round table, probably from the suite."
"Give me the table! To hell with the table!"
2 orders were left, one for 10 chairs transferred to the Furniture Museum in Moscow, and the other for the chair given to Konrad Gritsatsuyev in Plekhanov Street, Stargorod.
"Have your money ready," said Ostap. "We may have to go to Moscow."
"But there's a chair here."
1 chance in 10, pure mathematics. Anyway, Citizen Gritsatsuyev may have lit the stove with it.
"Don't joke like that."
"Don't worry, lieber Vater Konrad Karlovich Michelson, we'll find them. It's a sacred cause."
"We'll be wearing cambric footcloths and eating Margot cream."
"I have a hunch the jewels are in that very chair."
"Oh, you have a hunch, do you? What other hunches do you have? None? All right, let's work the Marxist way. We'll leave the sky to the birds and deal with the chairs ourselves. I can't wait to meet the imperialist war invalid Citizen Gritsatsuyev at 15 Plekhanov Street." "Don't lag behind, Konrad Karlovich. We'll plan as we go." As they passed Father Theodore's door, the vengeful son of a Turkish citizen gave it a kick. There was a low snarling from the harassed rival inside. "Don't let him follow us," said Ippolit Matveyevich in alarm.
"After today's meeting of the foreign ministers aboard the yacht, no reproachment is possible. He's afraid of me."
The friends did not return till evening. Ippolit Matveyevich looked worried. Ostap was beaming. He was wearing new raspberry-colored shoes with round rubber heel taps, green and black check socks, a cream cap, and a silk mixture scarf of a brightly colored Romanian shade. "It's there, all right," said Vorobianinov, reflecting on his visit to Widow Gritsatsuyev. "But how are we going to get hold of it? By buying it?"
"Certainly not," said Ostap. "Besides being a totally unproductive expense, that would start rumors. Why one chair, and why that chair in particular?"
"What shall we do?" Ostap lovingly inspected the heels of his new shoes.
"Chic moderne," he said. "What shall we do? Don't worry, Judge, I'll take on the operation myself. No chair can withstand these shoes."
Ippolit Matveyevich brightened up. "You know, while you were talking to Mrs. Gritsatsuyev about the flood, I sat down on our chair, and I honestly felt something hard underneath me. They're there, I'll swear to it. They're there, I know it."
"Don't get excited, Citizen Michelson."
"We must steal it during the night, honestly, we must steal it."
"For a marshal of the nobility, your methods are too crude. Anyway, do you know the technique? Maybe you have a traveling kit with a set of skeleton keys. Get rid of the idea, it's a scummy trick to rob a poor widow."
Ippolit Matveyevich pulled himself together. "It's just that we must act quickly," he said imploringly.
"Only cats are born quickly," said Ostap instructively. "I'll marry her."
"Who?"
"Madame Gritsatsuyev."
"Why?"
"So that we can rummage inside the chair quietly and without any fuss."
"But you'll tie yourself down for life."
"The things we do for the concession."
"For life," said Ippolit Matveyevich in a whisper. He threw up his hands in amazement. His pastor-like face was bristly, and his bluish teeth showed they had not been cleaned since the day he left the town of N. "It's a great sacrifice," whispered Ippolit Matveyevich.
Life, said Ostap. Sacrifice. What do you know about life and sacrifices? Do you think that just because you were evicted from your own house you've tasted life, and just because they've requisitioned one of your imitation Chinese vases it's a sacrifice? Life, gentlemen of the jury, is a complex affair. But, gentlemen of the jury, a complex affair which can be managed as simply as opening a box. All you have to do is know how to open it. Those who don't have had it.
Ostap polished his crimson shoes with the sleeve of his jacket, played a flourish with his lips, and went off. Towards morning he rolled into the room, took off his shoes, put them on the bedside table, and stroking the shiny leather, murmured tenderly, "My little friends." "Where were you?" asked Ippolit Matveyevitch, half asleep.
"At the widow's," replied Ostap in a dull voice.
Ippolit Matveyevitch raised himself on one elbow. "And are you going to marry her?" Ostap's eyes sparkled.
"I'll have to make an honest woman of her now."
Ippolit Matveyevitch gave a croak of embarrassment.
"A passionate woman," said Ostap, "is a poet's dream. Provincial straightforwardness. Such tropical women have long vanished from the capital of the country, but they can be found in outlying areas."
"When's the wedding?"
"The day after tomorrow. Tomorrow's impossible. It's May Day and everything's shut."
"What about our own business? You're getting married, but we may have to go to Moscow."
"What are you worried about? The hearing is continued."
"And the wife?"
"Wife? The little diamond widow? She's our last concern. A sudden summons to the capital, a short report to be given to the Junior Council of Ministers, a wet-eyed farewell, and a roast chicken for the journey. We'll travel in comfort, go to sleep. Tomorrow we have a holiday."